Good morning and welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, broadcasting to you live from Flyover. It is a bit damp and cold and drizzly and foggy out there, which has made getting into the day a little bit more difficult than normal, just to let you know. And a lot of times when I do the Sunday night show, even though I did end a bit early last night, I get wound up because of all the energy that I'm sort of running through that experience. How is everybody this morning? I hope you're well and well into your day this Monday. And if you're not, well, let's see what we can do about it and try to kickstart it. Although the news is not great, I have to be very honest with you, because honesty is one of the things that I do my best to strive for, although we're always human and we fall short. But my Jupiter and Sag, my first house, is part of my astro code. Anyway, so let's get into it today. Where do we start? Well, let's start off with the false flag that's happened in Syria, just as President Trump, announced to the world that we're pulling out, we're leaving. And this was a really big deal for people like Alex Jones on InfoWars and all the people on the far right, the alt-right, that were essentially holding Trump to his campaign promises, or at the very least his intentions. And they were saying, this is great. He did what he was supposed to do. We beat ISIS, and now we're leaving. Not so fast. Not so fast, President Trump. Because guess what? You're not leaving. We're not leaving. No, in fact, we're staying. And it could get even worse based on the events of the last 3 days. First of all, we have a fake chemical attack, and when I say fake, I'm not saying that people did not choke to death or have difficulty breathing or whatever the outcome of breathing chemical weapons is, because in Ghouta, apparently it happened. Now, they've been finding all kinds of chemical weapons inside of Daesh or ISIS camps. So these guys had chemical weapons. They had the chemical weapons. Either they stole them from Syria, or they got them illegally through, or however they get them through Israel and the IDF, or whoever's supplying them. They had them. And just as, again, the tables are turning, what happens? Well, of course, Assad is going to gas his own people. Or he's going to gas, or he's going to gas whoever. This is ridiculous. This is totally ridiculous. Of course he wouldn't do it. Of course he wouldn't do it. So now all of a sudden we have an international event. Donald Trump is pissed off, and we're not leaving Syria anytime soon, because the military-industrial complex does not want that to happen. There is a pipeline. There are two pipelines. There's a pipeline of weapons, munitions, infrastructure, support, jobs, all kinds of little perks that are attached to us being there. And quietly, people like John McCain, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, all these people are in support of an ongoing conflict and a never-ending war. At some point, psychically and emotionally, we will be absolutely drained and tired. Even if we're not fighting personally, the existential threat is always looming. So Trump denounced the chemical weapons attack vociferously, and of course, Assad didn't do it. What, if somebody's winning a war, why would they stage a chemical weapons attack? I mean, and here we are, Mercury retrograde. I talked about this last night. It makes absolutely no sense. No sense at all. And let's walk it back, President Trump. We're not leaving. And just to make sure, we're going to double down and we're going to break out those chemical weapons. We're going to false flag this thing. We're going to psyop it. You're going to have to go before the media and you're going to have to denounce it, even if you know it's bullshit. Because you are here to do our bidding. And you know, the Trump that we saw last week, and I don't know if Trump is a clone. He might be. He could be a clone. I mean, anytime you go to Camp David, it's like the light should be flashing. He's been to Camp David a couple times. Anyway, but the Trump we saw last week was kind of like the guy that people voted for, whether or not you agree with his demeanor. I mean, he's sending National Guard to the border in Arizona and Texas, and he said, hey, we're pulling out of Syria. Wow, this is the guy that people voted for. It's like, get us out of Syria, bring it on home, let's take care of the country. But that's not the plan for the globalist agenda. Yes, I use that word globalist agenda because there's a globalist agenda. And they want to bring everybody into a one world order. And that's just the bottom line. It's like, no, you don't have a country. You think you have a country? You think you're going to go home and take care of business and build a wall and take on China and build an infrastructure and rebuild the infrastructure and bring manufacturing back to the U.S.? You got another thing coming, pal. You just shut the fuck up and you go over there and fire some of those missiles and act all presidential, because that's what you're here to do. And of course, John Bolton is in the navigator seat, bloodlust in his eyes. So we didn't go out and take down Syria or hit one of their bases, but our good friend in the Middle East surely did. So this is from RT. So two Israeli F-15 fighters targeted Syria's T4 airbase in Homs province, the Russian Defense Ministry said on Monday. The jets fired 8 guided missiles, but 5 of them were shot down before they hit the airfield. In a statement on Monday, Russian military said 2 Israeli F-15 jets fired 8 guided missiles at the T4 airfield. The Israeli aircraft did not enter Syrian airspace and launched the strikes while flying low over Lebanon. Syrian air defense units have shot down 5 guided missiles, the military said, but confirmed 3 of the missiles reached the western part of the airfield. Lebanese armed forces have also confirmed that Israeli jet fighters and a reconnaissance plane violated the country's borders and remained in Lebanon's airspace for about 10 minutes. Israel's aircraft were flying over Lebanon's northern areas as well as over the sea. The Israeli embassy in Moscow refused to comment on the Russian Defense Ministry's report. Alex Gandler, the diplomatic mission's press attaché, told Sputnik Let's see. Asked about the Russians' military's statement, as IDF spokesman said, he had no immediate comment. The Jerusalem Post reported, citing his own correspondent. Lebanon's Al Mayadeen channel said earlier on Monday that an Israeli reconnaissance aircraft was airborne during the attack on the Syrian base. The missiles crossed Lebanese airspace over Kesaron and Becca, heading towards Syria, according to the broadcaster. The missile attack took place on Sunday night in Syria's Homs governorate. State news agency Sana reported there were several martyrs and wounded, but did not disclose the exact number of casualties. The report also said that the U.S. was probably behind the attack, although Washington denied any complicity in the strike. Let's see, here we go. At this time, the Department of Defense is not conducting airstrikes in Syria, the Pentagon told Reuters in a statement. However, we continue to closely watch the situation and support the ongoing diplomatic efforts to hold those who use chemical weapons in Syria otherwise accountable. France, which was also suspected of being involved in the attack, denied any responsibility for the military strikes, AFP on Monday. The strike on the T4 base came shortly after Western powers accused the Syrian government of orchestrating an alleged chlorine attack in the militant-held town of Douma. The chemical incident was reported by the White Helmets. Oh, God. A controversial group repeatedly accused of having ties to terrorists. The White Helmets are a group of phonies. And they're just deployed so that they can do internecine battle and stage conflicts under the auspices of being good guys, misreporting facts, and doing exactly what they did with the chemical attack, which is lie through their fucking teeth. Commenting on the unconfirmed gas attack, U.S. President Donald Trump denounced the mindless atrocity he described as humanitarian disaster for no reason whatsoever. He also accused Russia and Iran of being responsible for the incident due to their support for Syrian President Bashar Assad. Washington and Paris have already had telephone talks, during which Trump and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron decided to oppose Russia at the upcoming United Nations Security Council meeting, which is being convened to discuss the Douma incident. President Macron previously signaled that Paris might consider unilateral actions, including a military strike, if chemical weapons were ever used in Syria again. Where do these people... I mean, the whole thing is mind-blowing, okay? It's totally mind-blowing. Macron was like a really, really well-paid fucking bookkeeper. That's what he was. He was like a bookkeeper for the Rothschilds. And he gets elected. He has no military background. He has no background in anything, excuse me, except for basically accounting, high-level accounting. That's what he was. At least Trump went to military academy as a kid. That's not saying much. These are the people that are in the marionette position, that are taking orders and doing the bidding of the socioeconomic forces above them. And it's mind-blowing because there's an awakening taking place. There is a mass awakening taking place. No matter what people say, it is happening and it is on. And we're seeing these events now for what they are. We are not engaging with them from a company standard. The old rules of engagement with information are long since gone. And when these events get recirculated during a Mercury retrograde, we're going back, we're going to an old script in Aries. You know, basically war, warriors, violence, you name it. When that happens now, it's not like we're this static band of dumbed down consciousness and awareness. No, people are switched on and they're seeing this stuff. And at some point, and I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but at some point, there's going to be a turning of the tide against the people that are making the decision, having the decision-making policies and lying through their fucking teeth. It's going to happen. Now, when that happens and how it happens again, I don't know, but there's going to be a tipping point. And I think we're getting very close because most people are sick and tired of this garbage. And it's interesting because, excuse me, Alex Jones is in Washington today to essentially address the attacks on him from a legal perspective because he's getting sued right and left. But it's interesting because theoretically today would be a day where he would be on and he would be dealing with this material. And he'd have to be on the hot seat and be forced to reply and interact with what just happened. He won't be there, but one of his lackeys will be maybe Paul Joseph Watson or Roger Stone, who I think is one of the sleaziest people on the planet. If Alex Jones had any credibility, I mean any credibility at all, he would kick Roger Stone to the curb. Roger Stone, I saw him do something last week on InfoWars that was so disingenuous and so sneaky that it made me want to puke. Here's what he did. Roger Stone is tight with Scott Israel, the sheriff in Broward County. And he has not come out and denounced Israel. He can't. That event in Parkland is so, and that's, by the way, that's where Roger Stone lives. He lives there. He lives in Broward County, Florida, and he's buddies with Scott Israel. He helped him get elected twice. First to beat the incumbent sheriff, and then to stave off any challengers, including the former sheriff wanting to get back in. And Stone was a part of his campaign. He's buddies with Scott Israel. And Stone is, he describes himself as a libertarian and a libertine. What does the libertine part mean? You know what the libertine part is? It means that he's basically John Podesta without the underage stuff. That's who Roger Stone is. He's John Podesta without the underage stuff. Roger Stone has a long history of going to swingers parties and taking his wife and watching her with other dudes and other. I mean, that's Roger Stone. Look, if you want to do that, that's up to you. That's your life. It's your energy. But he's a sleazy little man, and he needs to be. Alex Jones can do whatever he wants to do. We know Jones is a gatekeeper, and every now and then he steps in a pile of truth, and then he goes back to keep the gate. But his relation with Roger Stone delegitimizes him even more than anything else that he's done. There are people on his show that I actually like. I like listening to Gerald Celente. I like listening to Mr. No More Fake News, John Rappaport. I like some of the guests on his show. And some of the guests I don't always agree with, and sometimes they have good information. Like I think Matt Bracken is an all-out and out Zionist, but he has good breakdown and good information. And sometimes you have to separate the wheat from the chaff, or the wheat from the tares, however you want to say it. But Jones won't be there. He won't get into this and absolutely denounce it because strategically he's in Washington, D.C. But I'm denouncing it, and I'm calling bullshit on it. And I don't have 5 million, 10 million followers or listeners, but I'm calling bullshit on this. And so should you. Or look, you can do whatever you want. But it's clear here that we've got people banging the war drum and we're being manipulated again and again and again. And we're sick and tired of it. And we can see what's happening. And it's going to be very interesting to see. It's weird, man. I listen to other people too. Yesterday, every now and then I listen to, what is it? Republic Radio, American Republic Radio, based out of Round Rock, Texas. It has some interesting shows, some shows not so interesting. Dr. Jennifer Daniels has a show on health on Sundays, which is great. I had her on my show quite a while ago. She basically left the AMA, left the United States, gave up her license, and went to Panama to practice medicine the way that she wants to. She's very smart, very honest, good radio. I was listening to her, and then it bled into this other guy, Steve Elkins, out of Florida. And if I were, look, American Public Radio can do whatever it wants, or, whatever it's called. They can, these guys pay to have their shows on the air. And this Steve Elkins character was absolutely fucking worthless. Pardon my language. I'm sorry. He was worthless. Worthless. He's going on and on and on about how great it was to live in Utah because he learned a lot from the Mormons and how they always dressed nice and they came on time, they came to work on time. And he's going on and on and on about their family life and their missions. He's praising Mormonism to high heaven. Well, Mormonism is based on Freemasonry. And what he should do is he should watch some of Bill Shenenblum's material. Bill Shenenblum was a guy who was a high priest, a dark occult high priest, and he mastered everything. And, he, along the way, one of his dark mentors said, well, if you really want to get the really high-grade teachings, you've got to become a Mormon because they'll initiate you. And so he went into Mormonism, and he did. Mormonism is incredibly esoteric and occult. It was based on Freemasonry and a bunch of other things that John Smith put together. And the whole idea with Mormonism, if you don't know it, is when you leave this body in this lifetime, if you've done everything according to plan and you checked all these boxes and you checked them off in a way that was really powerful, like you accrued power on this planet, guess what? You get to become a god of another planet. That is the ultimate trip in Mormonism. So he's sitting there supporting this. So what happened to Bill Shenenblum, before I move on, is that he was learning all this stuff, but at an angle, right? At an angle, Shenenblum got into God because that was sort of the umbrella. That was the circus tent of Mormonism. So while he was learning these more esoteric tools, you should check out some of Bill Shenenblum's material. It's absolutely fascinating. He's got a story where he gets transported to Saturn. And while he's on Saturn, he feels this incredibly malevolent energy. And he encounters this enormous being who takes a rod, like the equivalent of a steel rod, and pierces Shenenblum's third eye and drives it through his skull on Saturn. It's like amazing science fiction stuff, but he's got incredible stories. And all these things led him ultimately to becoming a Orthodox Christian. Is absolutely fascinating. Anyway, this guy is going on and on about Mormonism, how great the Mormon, and then he's talking about, the missions. Isn't it great? Isn't it great that they go in? The missions are essentially recruiting tools for the Mormons to build their numbers. And one of the things that the Mormons do is they go to places like Samoa and Tonga. They go down into Micronesia. Sometimes they go to Africa, and they are into converting people to Mormonism because there is a tenet in Mormonism where if you convert a dark-skinned person, you get extra brownie points. You get spiritual brownie points. The Tongans, the blacks, uh, Hispanics, Muslims, they all fall under a group of people called the Ebonites. And the Ebonites are a fallen race, according to Mormonism. And if you convert an Ebonite, well, you get spiritual brownie points. That's what the missions are about. And this clown is going on and on and on about how great it is just have a mission to serve. And like, you got to be kidding me. So then he has this woman talking about Islam in Europe and the invasion of Islam and the Muslims and on and on and on. This woman, this older woman, she wrote a book and she's connecting Islam to communism and so he has callers and they're like completely missing the mark on this. Both Elkins and this woman. I'm thinking maybe I should call in. I'm like, nah, somebody else is going to call in and bring my questions and my point of view. That's exactly what happened. This guy calls in, brings up Barbara Lerner Specter. He brings up this, whole Zionist blueprint to essentially invade or flood Europe with Muslims. And Barbara Lerner Specter is on record saying that. And this guy quoted Barbara Lerner Specter. He also talked about the Callegri plan. I mean, this guy knew exactly what he was talking about. And Steve Elkins did not, he was rushing him to get off the air. Can you please finish your point? You could tell he was short and curt with him. And then he did not address the point at all. This guy's a total gatekeeper. And then I listened to the next guy. He's in, I think, Montana or North Dakota. And he's totally into Trump. That's his thing. He's a big Trump guy. It's Trump, 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 Trump. And it's another, he's talking about, these little victories and what's going on with, these indictments and all the information that's being sat on by Rod Rosenstein and all this stuff. He's a total Trump supporter. Anyway, this woman comes on and she starts talking about 5G and the dangers that 5G might actually pose. And what does this guy do? He turns the conversation into internet censorship. Then another person comes on and says, hey, they have cameras. Apparently they have cameras in the polls in Russia, the voting places in Russia, so that they can see who's actually going in to vote. Then he starts talking about Veritas and how Veritas uses cameras to trick people into leaking out the truth. And I just thought this guy's really, first of all, he didn't even address the 5G thing. He went back into his little window of expertise, which was internet censorship. And it was just, these are the people. I mean, they're not as nearly as big as Alex Jones, but they do affect people. People listen to them. And I think for the most part, they're gatekeepers. I mean, that's just my humble opinion. Anyway, observations of a Sunday while I worked on my bed. Let's see if somebody's in the chat room. What do we have? There's Lynn. Jennifer lives here in the same town. I know her. Well, AMA tried to shut her down. Oh, it's Lynn, yeah. Because she wouldn't drive drugs. They put her on the no-fly list. Yeah, I love Jennifer. Jennifer Daniels. You should check her out. A lot of people think I should have her on my show again, and I will. Oh, well, she's terrific. Anyway, looks like we're on red alert this week, boys and girls. So keep your radar on and your air defense systems on alert. Looks like we're entering into a very intense kind of zone here, especially with the upcoming new moon in Aries. It's going to be a martial time. And I didn't even get into the Skirball stuff. Oh my God. Now they're fine. Oh yeah, we're fine now. And oh, guess what we're doing? We're going to go to the United States and we're going to get new identities. Oh man, what a joke. I mean, what people, I mean, these leaders, these so-called leaders should be completely embarrassed. Like they are being exposed 24/7 now. I don't know how these people live with themselves. Just don't. Anyway, well, listen, got a late start today. I apologize. I was running lots of energy last night. I couldn't sleep. So that filtered over to my awakening process here in this day. So why don't we get on out of here and let you enjoy your Monday in a steadfast fashion. Stay awake. Don't fall for this garbage. Because that's all it is complete garbage. Don't fall for it. Stay the course. And do your best to channel and funnel off any of the residual goo, black goo that's being spread by this legion of liars and illusionists. Take a deep breath while you're doing it. This is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to